What is that?
Well, I thought we use a piece of metal when we take pictures of your CPU.
Nice shiny background?
Yeah, it's pretty.
Okay, you do know we're doing a video on static shock, right?
Yeah.
Hi, what are you wearing? Is that wool?
Yeah?
And you got socks on the carpet.
Yeah, is that bad?
Hi, I'm Paul, this is Diane, and we are the PC Zombies, and today we're going to talk about static shock, and Diane is electrifying today.
Thanks!
You're welcome. First of all, I think we should talk about, can you change clothes? I got some real nice computer components over there. I'm worried you're going to shock.
All right, I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back with shoes and a non-wool sweater.
Although everybody knows what static shock is, because when you're a kid, you take off your shoes, you go through the house on the carpet, rubbing your feet, and then you find your sibling. Usually it's a sister, but sometimes it's a brother, rarely a bigger brother, and you touch them and see what happens. We know about that. We feel it. Sometimes in the dark, you can even see the static shock. But you know what, with electronics, Di, it doesn't take much. The static that can ruin an electronic chip is so small, you wouldn't feel it.
Really?
Yeah. And the way we're going to describe what we're doing today is we're going to tell you what the rules are to avoid static shock. If you want to know more, watch part 2, which is going to tell you how it works, so that if you understand the concept, you'll know what you could do to safely never have it happen to you.
Okay.
Okay, let's jump right into the rules. Best practice, if you can afford it and you have the parts, is you wear an anti-static wrist strap that's attached to an anti-static mat, and then that mat is connected to ground. And you do all your work on top of the mat.
The second thing is have an anti-static wrist strap connected to ground and do not work on a metal surface.
Yeah, in fact, that's almost as good as the first option, except for because you're not using the mat, there's always a chance if your work surface is bad, you may cause a problem. If you're working on a metal desk, get the anti-static mat. Also, I like the anti-static mat because it's cushiony and it protects the parts. So if I set something down, I'm not gonna get a scratch on it or scratch up my desk. And then the next best practice is just to touch something metal around the object that you're working on that isn't sensitive to shock. For example, if you're working on a computer, touch the computer case first, and then you could start touching the components inside of it. But remember, whenever you're not touching the computer case, even if you have a wrist strap connected to the computer case, that's good. But if you don't, and you're not touching the computer case and you're reaching over for another component, if you're wearing the wrong clothes or something, you're creating new charge as soon as you let go, and you could cause a shock again.
And the riskiest thing you can do is just ignore the whole concept and start working.
Yeah, that's your call.
And let's hope you have a good warranty.
Good idea. So now let's cover the easy things that you could do to protect yourself from static shock.
First one, never work in a lightning storm.
Especially if you're connected to your ground, you now might have a problem. Now, lightning strikes are rare and far between, but I sure would hate to be connected to ground when one hits my ground connector outside my house. The next 3 items Di just demonstrated. Do you remember them?
Oh yes, of course. Wearing a wool sweater, synthetic socks, and working on a metal surface.
Yeah, and so the solution to that is instead of a metal surface, work on a wood surface, or a cardboard box is okay. Just unfold the box and work on the box. You could work on an anti-static mat. If you ground it, even better. And as far as clothing concern is, most of the time, natural fibers are best, cotton, things like that. But wool is one of those rare exceptions, so don't wear wool or synthetics. Synthetics are really bad because they tend to collect a charge real easily. You don't have to move your arms much on a synthetic sweater or wool sweater before you're gonna start causing shocks. And it's also really easy to collect a static charge if you're in dry weather.
And the solutions for that are a humidifier or boil some water on the stove.
I have no idea how to boil water.
Of course not.
And if you can, work with shoes on. Don't wear socks on a carpet while you're working.
But the studio has carpet.
Yeah, so in a situation like this, you can't change the studio. Wear shoes, and rubber-soled shoes are actually worse, believe it or not. So if you got leather-soled shoes, even better. And finally, there's some things you could do when you're actually touching those sensitive electronic components. Like especially even if you have a mat and a strap, you go over across the room to pick up another component like your CPU. Well, wait till you get re-strapped in before you open the box, or at least only touch the edges of like circuit boards. Don't touch anything that's metal, any chips, or any solder. If you're doing that, that's when the shock is going to come through, and it could easily damage that component or even destroy it.
And make sure it's not plugged in.
Yes, that's a good one, because when a device is plugged in, it's collecting a charge. Unless you're plugged in, are you bored?
Well, sorta.
So,
Did I catch you off guard?
yes, unless you're plugged in collecting a similar charge, unplug both you and the device before you work on it.
All right.
Okay, so that's it. This is the end of part 1 where we talk about the rules. If you're a memorizer like Di, you're done. But if you're like me and you need to know what the concepts are, please subscribe to watch part 2.
And give us a thumbs up if you like us.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Bye.
Best case scenario, you're strapped to a rat. Still, you have to go get that component.
You're strapped to a rat.
Did I say strapped to a rat? Best case, you're strapped to a rat. And it's not too big to drag you around. You just drag him around. Because if you're strapped to like an elephant, you're not dragging him around. He's dragging you around.
Well, he gets shocked first, right?
He's grounding me.